Deep Rock Galactic is a fun game where you get to fight off hordes of enemies and play Minecraft with guns. This game is an absolute blast and you absolutely must play it. Because you can do this. Oh man, she's such a tsundere. And also, did you ever wanna be a blue-collar worker employed by a mega conglomerate that builds minerals and oil all your life? Well then allow me to give you a tour of your workplace. This is Hoxie's, a planet so dangerous that no one dares to step and harvest its minerals. Except for this one company, Deep Rock Galactic. And since Hoxie's is a shithole no one wants to live on, the higher-ups at Deep Rock Galactic came to the most straightforward and uncomplicated solution to the housing process. Building a massive fucking orbital space rig. This place supplies you with the most essential facilities in the game, such as equipment terminal that allows you to customize your loadout, and we'll get to that in more detail later. There is the bar where you can get shit-faced and dance to some pirate chanties. Near the bar, there's the most overlooked part of the game, the jet booter gate. There's also this ring of fire into which you can toss barrels for yourself. You also have this little thing called mission selection terminal where you get to decide what type of mission you want to play and its difficulty. But how do you play? Well, once you select a mission, you are going to be faced with two options on how to play the game, like it was intended, or play like you're literally Patrick Bateman for real. After gathering all your mans, you'll literally get delivered to your workplace in a mining space pod. This game is fucking sick. Once there, you are told to complete this top assignment, or you will become turf fertilizer. You also have this optional one, but no one cares, because these little guys will try to stop you from doing any of that. Which is why you're given a selection of 4 classes to send these arachnids to the God's realm. This is Gunner. He is basically an average American with the biggest guns in the game. This man shreds hordes of enemies in his armor supply like no one's business. And to get more, you will have to call a resupply pod. And how do you call a resupply pod? Well, you will have to collect this spaghetti sauce color mineral called nitra, and it takes 80 nitra to call one resupply pod. But his existence alone can more than double the survivability of your team, because he can throw these mines that will spawn a semi-transparent portfolio around you, protecting you and your half-dead teammate alive for about extra 6 seconds. The man also has this pathetic version of a grappling hook, useful for transporting you and your team up and down uneven terrain, and also for making insane clutches. By default, this Gigachat also has this grenade useful for killing big bugs. But you know whose grenades are basically the entire nuclear force of Russia? This guy. This is the driller and he's a fucking menace. This man's C4s are almost as good at killing bugs as gaming with your teammates. This guy is basically Rico from Madagascar Penguins. On the positives for the team though, he is just as useful as Gunner when dealing with big hordes of enemies with his flamethrower, with an added bonus of having 2 massive drills for the longest shortcuts in the game ever. On the other hand, we have this bozo who tends to play Bloons tower defense with his dumb little turrets. This is Engineer, and he's pretty much the typical engineering student after encountering the job market. Do not be fooled however, he is the actual G of the team, as he is the most useful class at higher difficulties. Not only can his turrets slow the progression of the swarm, his little platforms are able to patch holes, build stairways, or negate fall damage, which in this game is absolutely devastating. His main weapon is a shotgun, and it's okay for single targets I guess, but even then he often outperforms the gunner in bugs getting killed thanks to his turrets. And then there's this wacky lad. As you can tell from his voice, he isn't used to being kissed by bugs. Instead, this man is the fastest dwarf on the team, because he has a grappling hook. Which is why you'll mostly see him in the air than on the ground. Until of course he eventually falls and now everyone has to revive him. His main weapon is your average Joe assault rifle from every shooter ever, but the grappling hook honestly makes him arguably the most fun class in the game. Though sometimes it is just so hard to get a good scout on your team, which doesn't exactly ruin the experience, but I really mean it when I say that a good scout will make the game for everyone else so much easier. Since with his mobility and equipment, lighting up the caves is basically your full-time job, with an extra gig of reviving teammates in record time thanks to your trusty grappling hook. Unfortunately, almost all his weapons by default are not strong enough to handle massive swarms or deadly enemies on your own. But speaking of deadly enemies, you may encounter mini-bosses on your missions, and they are usually quite hard, but this thing in particular. This thing terrifies me. This is Glyphid Detonator, and this Colossus can wipe out your entire team as any of his attacks one shot. Not only that, but after his death, this thing becomes a literal Oppenheimer reference and leaves a massive crater. But would you believe me if I said that a walking Fukushima isn't the most dangerous thing in the game? Because this fucker is. Holy shit, this thing has by far caused most of my deaths. The developers knew damn well what they were doing when they added him. His entire reason for existence is to never let you go any further than 10 centimeters away from him. This guy will make you feel like Sisyphus trying to escape his insane range and rate of grabbing. Except that was not enough, this man is also quite tanky, making dealing with him solo insanely infuriating. Fuck you. But by far, the worst part is that his fucking grab mechanic sometimes does not work as intended, resulting in you cosplaying as Yuri fucking Gagarin without a parachute or a rocket. 0 out of 10, hate this man with a burning passion. Unrelated to burning passion, and perhaps the best mini boss in the game, this is Rend. And it is the result of Deep Rock trying to conquer Hoxie's with machines. And her actual name is Betsy, and she's not very friendly. As apparently, Hoxies have these sucker leeches that are able to infect any machinery, turning them aggressive. But once you do get rid of these suckers, you get a pretty good companion that is very effective in combat against spiders. Betsy, my beloved. Now, I would like you to imagine something completely impossible in the modern AAA scene. Each of the classes has a selection of just 3 unique main weapons that all feel and play very differently. Let's take the Gunner for example. His default weapon is this minigun that absolutely shreds bosses. However, he also has this rocket launcher, which with this upgrade that essentially makes the Gunner stronger the longer he shoots his weapon for, he becomes an absolute swarm destroyer. Or remember how I said that Scout can't handle big swarms? Yeah, you can double down on that with an M1000 rifle, which is even worse with swarms but hits like a truck on enemy points. On top of that, each and every piece of equipment, aside from players, can be customized. The craziest thing is that the developers somehow managed to balance every single possible configuration of every single class to blend with each other, while not making any class feel boring or repetitive even after hundreds of games. Speaking of games, multiplayer is great, since you can do parties of just 4 people and still get a blast. The community is insanely supportive. At the early stages of the game, you are forgiven most mistakes, and even helped in completing some of the mandatory assignments at the beginning of the game. No, seriously, the small team behind Deep Rock managed to pull off something no studio, especially AAA, can do. And that is positive interactions with other players.
Let's go!
In each game, you'll feel as a welcome addition to the team, even if you are not as skilled as other players. This might be because you guys working on the same brutal conditions of a mega conglomerate and thus hold no power by yourself, but also because all earned credits and resources after completing a mission are shared evenly within your team. Personally, I think it feels nice to play the game because other people literally acknowledge you and value your presence. Because the game literally provides you with a quick shortcut to do so. And it is done by pressing V, and it's pretty much the tradition to spam it on your way back with your new friends after a successful mission. The game always makes you return and play, not because of some psychological addiction, but because it just feels good when you play the game with other people, which is really saying something about the current state of multiplayer shooters. And it's not like the devs just built their magnum opus and stopped giving a damn thing about it. No, the passionate team of devs always work on new content and are actively listening to the player base. 4 out of 8 mission types that are currently in the game came out after the game's release. So you could say that, in a way, the devs double-emphasized the game between its release and now. Looking at you, Valve. Now, if you're an experienced viewer and look for a creative challenge, then may I implore you to take a look at deep dives. Deep dives are really interesting because they are 3 consecutive missions back to back, with the same people, same resources, carrying over from one mission to the next one, leading to much more stressful situations, and making you consider your ammo supply much more carefully. Now, the regular deep dives aren't that hard. They ain't shit compared to what most people actually play, which is elite deep dives. And they are brutal. To this day, I have yet to beat a single deep dive elite, despite having almost 60 hours at the game. Now, it's important to mention that while I have tried to go into some detail, I have barely scratched the surface of this game and its mechanics. So yeah, you should definitely play it. No, I'm serious, if you haven't played this game, what are you doing? Go play it now! I mean it, it's one of the only games that still brings a smile to my face. So try it out. But I guess that's it. Bye! Okay, how do I turn this off? No, bro, this is bullshit.